Hey everyone, this is the sew along tutorial for the Jade Knit Dress. We're going to go through the entire process together from printing and tiling all the way to the final hem. We're going to be doing most of it on the serger. If you don't have a serger, it can be done with a zigzag stitch on your regular machine. Let's get into it. Once you get your file downloaded, go ahead and, if you want to, click off the sizes that you don't need. Mine is going to be a medium for our example here today. And when you print it, the main thing is to make sure you're printing it at 100%. Don't scale it. Just leave it at 100%, please. Next, we're going to work on tiling our pattern. If you haven't done this before, it's pretty straightforward, but I'll show you. You can go ahead and cut the edges off and then line it up, match the circles along the line, depending on what file you prefer to use. Here's kind of an example of how the pages will be laid out based on your preferred files. I like to do it in the window, to be honest with you. It's just nice to be able to have that see-through ability. So if that's an option for you, I would recommend giving it a try. Here's a close-up of that. And you can see I did go ahead and print with all the sizes just so I could see the full set. You can kind of see how it's just easy to see through it. You could just go ahead and line them right up. And here's my fabric selection. Mine is a tie-dye jersey knit cotton collie blend. I'd recommend any jersey fabric for this project. Bamboo, cotton spandex, some of the modals are really nice. You want to aim for a knit fabric that's about 50% stretch. So tons of options out there. Have fun, express yourself. Go ahead and lay your fabric out. Get it all matched up as a double layer. We're going to cut 2 of the front and 2 of the back. As you place your pattern to be cut out, be a little picky about the placement. You'll want the center line to be placed just so. I'm even using a ruler here to measure out the distance from the selvage so I can get it nice and straight and even down the whole front. This is especially important with fabrics that have stripes or any kind of motifs. Also, if you need to add or remove any length from the hem, now is the time to do that. So if you need to extend it, just go ahead and keep that line parallel to the existing hem. Also remember that the front piece is sort of at an angle, so follow the grain line in the center line, not necessarily the squares of the paper. Next, we're going to take our sharp fabric scissors and cut both copies of the front dress and the back dress. We want to make sure that we're also snipping into the notches on the side seams as well as the armhole. This will help us make sure that everything matches up as we're sewing, that it's accurate, and also the double notch on the back armhole helps us kind of indicate what side is the front and the back as we're putting it together. But you can also tell that from the neckline being deeper in the front as well. This pattern includes a 1/4 inch seam allowance across the whole thing, which is about the width of a serger seam, so everything will be nice and easy. All right, now we can begin getting prepared for our construction. We're going to go ahead and remove our pins. I like to leave the patterns attached to the pieces until right before I'm sewing so I can keep everything organized. I do recommend for knit fabrics that are the same on both sides, go ahead and mark the right sides of your fabric. It will definitely save you a lot of trouble, trust me on this one. Now we're going to go ahead and line up with the right sides together, a front and a back for each layer. So there'll be essentially 2 dresses in total. The first seam we're going to do are the shoulders. We're going to line them up right on top of each other and zip them right through the serger. My serger is a Brother 1040D. I have all 4 of my thread tensions set to 4. My differential feed is a 1.5, stitch length of 4, and cutting stitch width is a 5. Make sure to leave the blade on and do test your fabric to see what settings are best for you. Now we're ready to begin sewing. I'm going to chain all 4 of my shoulder seams right through the serger. With the serger, you just run the entire seam under the foot all the way to the edge and leave a little tail in between each of the sections that you're going to do. And then we're going to snip them apart and check it out. So now we have all of those seams done. We're going to go ahead and open up each piece and lay it flat. And we can see that our tape is up, so perfect, we got that right. Let's stack them right sides together, and we're going to sew our neckline in one big circle. So now we're back on the serger, and we're just going to run that entire neckline seam through the serger. When we get to the shoulder seams, we want to make sure that they're stacked right on top of each other so that they'll match up really nicely on the finished garment. Once you reach the end of your circle for the neckline seam, you can either overlap it and sort of taper the serge all the way off, or you can sort of rotate your fabric towards the back and then serge off the rest of it straight forward. That gives a pretty clean finish. That's what I like to do. Now we're ready to flip the garment to right side out. Go ahead and take that top layer and just flip it right through that neck hole line that we just sewed up. And next we're going to give it a good press and move on to the next step. For the armholes, we're going to use a technique called the burrito method. We're going to roll up one side of the dress towards the other armhole like this. Once you're there, go ahead and wrap both layers of the opposite side around that rolled part. We want to make sure that we're matching up that underarm point right there in the middle as well. Flip the seam allowance towards opposite directions. That will kind of help reduce the bulk as you're sewing it up. So let's just go ahead and pin it so it stays in place while we bring it over to the machine, and then we'll sew it up. All right, and now we're going to just put our pin section right under the presser foot, and we can sew up our armhole seam. When you get to the center part where the shoulder seams are, make sure that they're matched up as they go underneath the needle so that it will line up really nicely on our finished garment. And try to avoid any of the rolled up part getting too close to the needle or under the edge. You want to just make sure that you're only sewing through those two layers that we had wrapped around, and just work it all the way to the end. Remove the pins as you go, and we're good. Cool. So we've got that seam sewn. We're going to go ahead and reach in and sort of pinch and pull it through and shimmy it all the way out to the other side. It's kind of a magical part of sewing, seeing it kind of come together. This way it kind of keeps the entire armhole encased. You don't have to do any binding or additional techniques. It's very easy. Of course, we want to go ahead and press and lay it flat. We're going to go ahead and repeat the same burrito method process for the other side. Roll it down, wrap it around, line it up, sew it through. It's always so fun. Now we can flip that armhole right side out just like the other one. Go ahead and pinch and pull, shimmy it right on through, and we are making progress. Look at that. There she is. Let's go ahead and press. Now we can match up our underarm points. We're going to work on the side seam next. Let's get those points lined up. Keep that part pinched while you go ahead and open it up. So we can lay that flat. We want to keep those points matched up nicely. There's our notches. That's a good sign. I'm going to go ahead and pin at the notches as well as the whole side seam. We're going to match up our underarm point. Do the seam allowance in opposite directions just like we did before. Pin, pin, pin. We're going to do this seam as one big full seam right over the middle. and then we'll go ahead and do the other side as well. Keep it lined up with the edge, follow the curve, keep the weight up on the table of the dress, run it through, and there we go. We've got both of our side seams sewn, and here comes the magical flipping part. Go ahead and grab the inside, shake it out. Guys, we're almost done. Of course, we want to make sure that we are pressing. It's looking good. Now using your hem gauge, let's mark out 3/4 of an inch up for the hem. So just fold it into place and press along the entire hem for both the inner and the outer layer. I'm going to show you guys how to use a twin needle on our regular machine. So first thing is we're going to go ahead and get that installed. For the top threads, you're going to run through a second thread exactly the same as you would with your single needle. Your machine should have an additional spot to run a second spool through so that you can get 2 threads through your machine. So we can do our double needle and pull it through under the presser foot. I'm going to increase my stitch length just a little bit. I actually take it up a little bit further to maybe a 3.8, a couple ticks below a 4. This right here is actually my sample that I went ahead and did first before deciding on the final settings that I liked. You definitely are going to want to test to see what settings and stitch length will be best for you and your fabric and your machine. Here's how our sample came out. I like that the stitches are nice and even. You can still get stretch from it because it has the zigzag in the back. And it looks nice and even and smooth. So I'm going to keep it like that and go ahead and run through my final hems. Run it straight through and we're almost done. Back stitch at the end. And there we have it. We finished sewing our Jade Knit dress. Great job, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'll have the link for the pattern in the description below. It's my first one, so I appreciate your support. If you do end up making this dress, and I hope you do, please tag us at Rebel Runway Patterns on all social platforms. And have fun sewing. Thanks for hanging out with me. Have a great day.